Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan vows those behind an attempted coup will pay a heavy price. Thousands of people, including senior commanders in the Turkish armed forces, are now in custody in response to Friday's uprising. The Turkish Foreign Ministry said at least 290 people were killed. President Erdogan blames cleric Fethullah Gulen for plotting the coup and is calling on the United States to extradite the 75-year-old who's been in self-imposed exile in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. We begin our coverage right now with CCTV's Stephanie Fried in Istanbul. And Stephanie, what can you tell us about the people who've been detained by the government and the legal process in Turkey?
Well, first of all, and I'll tell you what's happening right behind me, which is thousands upon thousands of people here, Central Square, Taksim of Istanbul, turning out again another night. They've been turning out for a number of nights consecutively by the thousands to show their support for the government. These are pro-President Erdogan supporters, and they spend every night since that overthrown coup attempt, every night, almost all night long here at the square. Let me go back to your question, which is the people who have been arrested. These are sweeping arrests, thousands and thousands of people arrested. The number is climbing up toward 10,000, and those include, as you said, senior military personnel, senior commanders, including a security advisor to the president himself, the commander of the Air Force Base, where the U.S.-led coalition strikes against ISIL take off from, judges, police officers, and today, employees of the finance ministry. So these are sweeping arrests. They are drawing some criticism. And again, top ranking people in these arrests. Some have hinted that perhaps there was a list of people to be arrested that was drawn up a long time ago by the Turkish government that preceded any attempted coup by a very long time. Anand?
Stephanie, Turkey is a member of NATO. It's a critical player in the battle against ISIL. How effective is it now going to be with this coup, and is Turkey's military now fractured?
Well, to start with your last question first, the military is absolutely fractured, with so many members of the military being arrested, people being killed, so much suspicion, and suspicion on both sides who was involved in the coup, who really was behind it. Definitely the military is fractured at this point right now. In terms of ISIL and the fight against ISIL, it's important to remember that Turkey essentially has served in a big way as a jumping off point for those U.S.-led coalition strikes against ISIL. This is from Incirlik. This is an Air Force base, and sorties led by the U.S. Coalition run from Incirlik to carry out strikes in Syria and Iraq against ISIL. Now, those strikes stopped for several days, and France's foreign minister even called into question whether Turkey would still be a viable partner in the fight against ISIL. However, the strikes have resumed, and that statement was semi-retracted. So going forward, there's a big open question mark about really what Turkey's role will be in terms of the fight against ISIL. But certainly, again, the army right now in Turkey is fractured. Anand.
Thanks, Stephanie. That's CCTV's Stephanie Fried reporting from Istanbul. Well, joining us now from Istanbul is Hakan Camuz. He's a Turkish political commentator and director at Stoke and White law firm in London. Here with us in the studio is Aykan Erdemir. He's a former member of the Turkish Parliament and a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies in Washington. From Ankara, we're joined by Tulin Daloglu. She's a journalist who's written extensively for various Turkish and American publications. Also with us in Washington, D.C. is Ilhan Tanir. He's a reporter with Cumhuriyet Daily and a Turkish analyst. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Hakan Camuz, let me start with you. What do you believe motivated this coup? Why did sections of the Turkish military decide to overthrow the government?
Well, there's various stories that's been talked about at the moment, but one clear kind of tangible evidence we have is police have already drafted a list of people they were going to arrest, and that list have included most of the members of the military units that tried and attempted to do coup d'etat. So that could be one tangible reason we could probably discuss as an evidence-based reason. But there are other reasons that we could talk about, as saying they have been preparing for some time. These people do belong to Fethullah Gülen movement, terrorist movement, and that these people have been preparing because they had this intention to do so for some time. And we can see evidence of this from some of the books and a list of things that have come up from the tanks and the vehicles they were using. So there has been an intention. Maybe they've kind of brought it forward because they knew police was going to move on them quite recently.
Well, that's an interesting theory. I haven't seen that one before, the fact that the government had a pre-prepared list, and that list could have precipitated this coup. Do you believe that to be the case, Aykan?
I think it's possible that for two reasons. One, there was a list of officers who were going to be investigated and possibly put to trial. Moreover, there were rumors that a significant number of military officers were going to be forced into early retirement later in August. So both of these factors could have come together to push these officers to stage a coup. Maybe they were planning for a later date, so they might have been pushed into a premature coup attempt, and that might have also led to the failure of the coup.
Right, let's bring in Tulin from Ankara. Tulin, the military in Turkey have staged coups before. There have been something like, what, 4 coups or 5 coups in the last 60 years. Why did this one fall apart?
Well, that's a good question. I think everyone in Ankara is asking about it because there are so many, things that makes people doubt about, how did it happen? How did it fail? Because this country, as you said, had seen 3 successful coups in the last 3 decades. So this country is definitely not a stranger to the military coups. But first things first, this coup was not carried in the military command chain. And everyone that I'm talking to, like, a number of retired military intelligence officers do also tell me that the ones who, have carried out the coup are the Gülenists. So there is no doubt that the Gülenists had carried this coup. But again, when you go to the details of it as to how did it happen and how could this, be so devastating, and how could they dare to bomb the Turkish parliament and also, shut fires at the Bosphorus, that was really, unthinkable. But we also had seen in the sledgehammer case, Anand, during the time when the Gülenists and the Erdogan camp was in a convenient marriage, they put behind bars hundreds and hundreds of retired and active duty military personnel, accusing them of forming a terror organization and also overthrowing the Turkish government, the Erdogan government. And they claimed that they were going to bomb 2 mosques in Istanbul and also the Atatürk Mausoleum in Ankara. Well, that coup, after the corruption case came into being, and that was December 2013, right, the Erdogan camp and the Gülenist camp fell apart, and since then this Ergenekon case dropped. All the military personnel were acquitted. Well, that coup didn't happen, but on Friday night, July 15, the Gülenists had actually bombed the Turkish parliament, and they bombed Istanbul, Istanbul's Bosphorus. So there are a lot of things that's just resembling and disturbing here.
Right, Ilhan, Tanir, President Erdogan had been coming under increasing criticism for the manner in which he was running Turkey. He was being accused of cracking down on the media, cracking down on the political opposition, trying to consolidate more power in the presidency. Now we've had this coup, the coup has failed. Is it likely now that the president is going to widen that crackdown?
I would disagree with you, but I think that the initial signals, President Erdogan is going to double down and he's going to go after a wide range of opposition. I hope I'll be proved wrong. But so far, one thing that it is very noticeable, President Erdogan has not been trying to reach out to the other side of the country. Yes, there are thousands of people are going out, stay in the street, and support the government. But it has been 3 days. We have not seen from the government circles. For example, HDP, pro-Kurdish party leader, from very early hours of the coup, came out and condemned the coup. But President Erdogan has not called him to say thank you, or he has not tried to reach out to him. So these initial signals so far, I think it is about 15,000 people, or more than 15,000 people of the detained from the police forces and military forces, judiciary, bureaucracy. And these are, many people are asking, rightly so, how it is possible within a couple of days you can draw 15,000 people and then detain them or fire them. It is still early, and we are hoping that Mr. Erdogan is going to take a U-turn and trying to reach out to the other side of the party and stop cracking down the legitimate opposition within the country.